Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hopeful Romantics Club. I'm your host, Naomi, and today I'm joined by my friend, Roni. She was born in the UK, currently lives in LA, and has been here for, 14, 15 years?
Yeah.
Very long time, is a creative freelancer, does photography, writing, and I think the coolest thing about you is, there's so many cool things about you, but you're currently hosting and organizing an event called SESI Social, and SESI... Would you care to explain?
SESI is...
Talking about sex, baby.
Talking about you and me. It's like biology class, but a little bit more Christian and a little bit more sexy.
Yeah, I love that. She's like touching a topic that I feel like most Christians avoid.
Yeah,
and shocking fact, sex is not a taboo thing. God created it. We're meant to enjoy it. But before we dive that deep, my first question for you, my first question for all guests, starting from officially today, I feel like this is a good intro question, is have you ever been in love?
I have not been in love yet, but I look forward to that experience.
Oh, I love that. I definitely feel like most of the people watching are also in the same position, though growing up and like going through my 20s, I definitely thought I was the only one who's never experienced what I see on TV and in rom-coms and all of that. So have you been intentional in the pursuit of love, and how has that shaped your dating history and who you are today and even your goals for where you're at right now?
I think there is always room to be more intentional in the pursuit of love before it becomes a little bit like business transaction-y. I think it's hard because I have more traditional standards for myself. I want to be pursued. And so being intentional kind of just looks like sitting around and doing nothing sometimes. Like putting myself in the right environments and then just being like...
But also says the girl who's hosted like matchmaking events.
This is true. This is very true. But in those events, I'm trying to get other people coupled up.
Yeah.
Which I have a marriage under my belt. 2 marriages, actually, and a baby on the way.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. That is a huge accomplishment. I should have started with that. So
that is okay.
Yeah.
That is it. I love seeing people in love, and I like contributing to the health of the dating scene. But back to your question about what I have done, which is I do think I could have been more intentional, and I do think within the Christian world too, there's this gray area for women who hold more traditional beliefs, which is, what does pursuit look like? Can you drop hints? Is that pursuit? Or are hints too much of a pursuit? Is it too easy? Men obviously will argue, no, please write it on a giant sign in neon and put it on the top of the Empire State Building and I will get that hint. Funnily enough, I did just get approached in the matcha shop down there.
Oh, no
by
way.
A guy. Yeah,
What?
it was really crazy. It was really crazy. So Lindsay and I were standing in line, and this guy comes in. It was actually really sad. This guy comes in. He goes, "Excuse me, I know I'm ugly, but I just wanted to say that you're really beautiful. Have a good day." And I said,
I've never heard of a self-deprecating pickup line like that.
And so I didn't know what to do or what to say, because I was like, "Oh no, don't do that. Don't say that." And honestly, I don't think he was ugly. I was like, "Oh, thank you," and then he just walked away, and I was like. What do I do with this information? Please, men, if any man is watching, don't lead with a self-deprecating line. Not even because it's an ick or anything, but because you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Have confidence in yourself, because you don't know. He doesn't know. He could have been my exact type. Or maybe he's not my type, but he's someone that I would be interested in exploring or whatever. Anyway, I
That
think
is so funny.
Right?
Wow.
Isn't that the most random thing ever? So where I'm at today is I'm still single. And that's okay.
Yeah. And you said you've been single for how many years now?
I've been single for 9 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're now 26.
26,
Yeah.
27 this year. Very excited, very excited.
Do you mind sharing a little bit about your dating history and maybe even where you're at right now?
Yeah, so my dating history has been quite uneventful. I had a boyfriend. I had a boyfriend in high school. I think we dated for about 9 months. And then I had a situationship, which was also probably around the same length, which may or may not be embarrassing, when I was 18. And I've been on maybe 5 or 6 dates since, or actually probably like 10, but 3 with the same person, and then sporadically since then. So it's been in 9 years.
Okay. Wait, so how old are you now?
I'm 26.
Okay. Oh, she's still a baby. Okay. But I'm sure you, like most of us, had an expectation and a timeline for how our love life and relationship would go, right?
Yeah, so I tried not to have a timeline because I was just like, okay, life is so unpredictable. I can't really put a time on anything because I'm already not at the pace that I should be at. And no one really knows what they're doing, so what's the point of having a timeline? But I did look to my mum, because my mum and dad are still married, still in love. And she got married when she was 27, and I was like, honestly, she had a good amount of time to be alone and find herself and everything. And then she got married and the timeline that she went by was like ideal to me. So I was hoping to be married at 27, which is this year. So clearly it's not happening. And that's okay. I'm actually okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what have you been focusing your time and your efforts on during your early 20s to mid so far?
Goodness, myself. We're such complex beings, such complex creatures. And so there is so much learning you can do about yourself. And then in that learning, what you need to heal and then what you need to focus on in terms of growing closer towards what you want to do in life, whether that's your purpose or extra purpose activities. And then even finding out what types of people, what type of lifestyle do I want to live? How do I want to raise my kids? And I just feel like I have a lot to do. You know, I'm never bored. I'm never just sitting idly, like waiting for a man to enter my story because there is nothing happening in my story. So that's what I'm doing in the meantime.
I love that, and I think it's so important. But what do you do when the moments of loneliness do come? Because no matter how busy, how successful, how much we have going for ourselves, I feel like that's definitely a struggle that all of us face, right?
Yeah, 1,000%. I think it's a little bit delusional to think you'll never be lonely. If you're single or never have a lonely moment. But they aren't defining moments, I think, of singleness. God, I cry. I cry out to God. I wonder what I'm doing. I wonder all the questions that burden the single life, like I think about. And I let them hit me and I let them affect me. And then I move on. And that's okay. It's every phase of life we're in, there are going to be like ups and downs that you face. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're doing anything wrong or your experience is any less valid. Like that, you don't get a gold star for being a single person who doesn't get lonely. Good for you. Like, you don't get lonely. That's awesome. But for those of us who do, that's okay. That's a part of being single. And you just accept that's a part of it.
Just like loneliness comes when you're single, I've heard a lot of married people say it exists in marriage as well.
Yeah, I think, again, because we're a new person every 7 years, they say. I think even without the kind of scientific perspective of the literal, like you have a brand new set of cells going on every 7 years. There's so much about you that you discover within partnership. And you aren't an island unto yourself. You should never be an island unto yourself when you are in partnership. But as you learn who you're becoming, sometimes it can feel lonely.
I love that because I really believe that there is like a difference in being alone versus being lonely.
Yeah.
And so during this time of being alone, what keeps you hopeful in the waiting?
Well, first of all, I think God keeps me pretty hopeful. He's writing my story. Honestly, it's nice when you believe in God because you can be like, all right, God, you got it. I don't have to worry about it because it's happening, regardless of whether I know when it's happening or not. I think the easiest answer for me for that is seeing people that I know and love in healthy relationships. That keeps me hopeful. But something that makes dating less frustrating, something that kind of quells the anger, that seems really strong, but quells the anger and frustration towards men, is humanizing them and being very aware of the contributing factors to why the dating culture is the way it is today. And I was actually talking to someone about this quite recently, in that it's really easy to be frustrated and be like, God, the people that you made, look at how they're treating us. First of all, in and of ourselves, there is so much going on. So that's already hard. Throw on top of that the individual healing that needs to happen after being exposed to certain things in life, whether it is heartbreak, whether it's some kind of trauma, whether it's something like that. Okay. And now throw into it, gosh, this is maybe a deeper topic, but certain cultural movements that have shifted the way men want to interact with women for fear of coming off a certain way. And then add onto that the illusion of options. Then add onto that lack of discipleship and mentoring, whether that be within faith or without faith, like even in career or in education. And then you really start to think about everything that men are facing and have to overcome to become or feel like they are worthy of the love that they hear about. Yeah, am I frustrated? Could you overcome this? Yes. But do I understand why you are where you are? Just as a general collective, obviously everyone's an individual. Yeah. And so it makes the waiting more bearable, because it's not like all of these finished products, this sounds really dehumanizing, but all of these finished products are walking around and they're just not choosing me, and they're choosing to be wrong in a sense. It's, no, all of these people are people navigating life and are honestly in really interesting, unprecedented cultural circumstances that would make it harder for them to commit to someone, let alone commit to someone and have a healthy, thriving relationship. So I think that's what keeps me not frustrated. But yeah, God, community, media representation, and then just remembering that men are human too. It's like, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that helps us to not place the blame on them, because I feel like sometimes we're like, I'm single because men suck. But
yes,
that's
exactly.
not the truth and the reality. And I think faith also plays a big part in both of our lives. So knowing that God is writing that love story allows us to fully just like surrender and take the pressure off ourselves, and remember that there's nothing you could do to mess up God's plan for your life. I'm constantly reminding myself of that, because sometimes you see like a cute guy and you're like, I should have smiled at him. I should have approached him. Did I miss the one? So actually, speaking of the one, do you believe in that?
Controversial maybe take. I do believe in the one, but it's not in the stereotypical way that is probably talked about. It goes hand in hand with my belief system, which I'm a Christian. And I believe there are verses in the Bible that talk about God knowing the number of hairs on your head, knitting you together in the womb. Just God being very specific with who he chooses, why he chooses, what he chooses. And so I believe that every single part of our lives and every single thing about us is extremely intentional. Extremely intentional. Yes, there's free will. Yes, we live in a fallen world, so that kind of throws a spanner in the works a bit. But who I am in this period of time, the desires on my heart, like what I'm passionate about, all of those things are so specific because God has a specific thing he wants me to do while I'm here. And in the Bible, as some of you may not know, marriage is a physical manifestation of God's love for his people. And so I think that being such an integral, such a powerful and important representation is not then something God would just leave to chance. I believe in his permissive will. He's not going to stand up there and be like, okay, now kiss. Like, he's going to give you the option. But I do believe that is all to say. I do believe there is someone out there who is his ideal for you. And that's it. You can be with whoever you want for the most part. You don't have to be with this person. But this person is the most ideal. I think that principle we see in a lot of other places in our lives. But I think when it comes to love and the one, it becomes really scary and intimidating because we do go, what if I miss and what if I don't know and what if you're leaving everything else up to God anyway, then it's honestly really none of your business. You aren't going to miss it. If you really are chasing after God's purpose for your life and you really are like, God, I don't want to miss it, he's not going to let you miss it. But also if you find some other guy on the way, and you're like, God, he's really cute and I really like him. And he'll bless that too.
Yeah.
As long as there's no like glaring things coming down the pipipeline that we don't know about yet.
So maybe instead of the one, we need to rebrand it to the ideal.
Yeah, the ideal. I believe in the ideal.
That's a good rom-com name too. I love that. One of the things that I love is you're very adamant on matchmaking in a way. Yeah. I feel like you're self-proclaimed, but an actual like matchmaker. Because like you said, you've had some success under your belt. And I think you said you were going to even make it a business in a way, right?
Yes. So
I am very much I want to meet someone in person, whether it's through a recommendation or someone setting me up, or of course the meet cute in a matcha cafe.
Yes.
So I love this concept, and I think it's so important because I feel like there is such a disconnect where it's like, I know so many amazing, great women, and then there's so many amazing, great guys. Like, why aren't they connecting? Like, where is the disconnect there?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think for me, my biggest motivation in becoming an official matchmaker is that I'm seeing a lot of my friends hurting. And that's also why I started SESI. I was like, I'm having very honest, open, raw conversations with my friends that honestly reveal that there's a lot of hurt and insecurity and embarrassment and shame around the topic of sex and the topic of women's bodies and wellness. And so why don't I start a space where we can just talk about it openly? And the same thing with matchmaking. It's like I've already unintentionally done it, so why not intentionally do it?
And I feel like it's cool how you're working on matchmaking, which is like the initial connection, but then you're also doing SESI, which is sex, which means as Christians after marriage, like kind of like the end goal.
Yeah.
And so even when it comes to SESI and the conversations you're having around that, I think it's so important and beautiful and needed to have those conversations.
One of the reasons that I started my page is because I saw a lot of women struggling. And what we do know is that the way the church has approached sex and marriage in the past isn't working. It's not working because people are being told to turn on the light switch right that night. You have to have everything figured out. You got to not be scared. You got to be this like sexual, I don't know, master, siren. Right the first time, there is nothing I've been good at the first time. Or even if I've been okay at it, there's room for improvement. And I think too, one of my key talking points in conversation or in interviews or things like that is vaginismus, because it is I believe the term is psychosomatic condition. Vaginismus is when penetration of any kind down there is extremely painful, not just at the entry, because there is a separate thing for when it's just like the entry of the vagina, but just all the way through. You're like I can't put in a tampon, let alone a whole member. And that is, again, psychosomatic, meaning it's all up here. It is one of the only conditions that I have encountered, and I'm not like a super professional, but it's one of the only conditions I have stumbled upon that is purely a mental thing. And it doesn't even have to be from trauma. I would bet every single penny in my bank account, which isn't many at this point, but if I had many, I would still bet all of it, that most of the people struggling from vaginismus are Christian women. Because we are told, and from a young age, don't think about it, don't look at it, don't smell it, don't even know it exists until your wedding night. And then purity culture on top of that. So we build all of this anxiety around it, and we carry this tension. We don't explore our body. Like, some people haven't even looked down there. And I'm like, God, you need to see if anything's good down there, just in case. Sometimes things pop up and you need to know what's going on. Explain it to your gyno. But because of that, a lot of women do struggle when they get to their wedding night, or even before that if they're not Christian, and they're like, sex is painful. It's painful for a long time, and they don't know what's going on. They don't know how to describe. No one's talking about it, or very few people are talking about it. And it's like, I have to go to a certain part of the internet to find out what it is, and I don't know if I want to go to that corner, and I don't even know if I want to traverse over there just in case. And so all of that to say, vaginismus, pain, people feeling disconnected from their bodies, people being nervous about marriage as a concept even, that is why I talk about sex the way I do, because sex education shouldn't start in the bedroom. It should start years beforehand. I'm not going to throw a dinner party as my intro to learning how to cook. No, I'd like to grow up knowing about what different types of food there is, what types of seasoning, where did all these spices come from, and then I'll practice cooking maybe a little bit before, and then I won't be so anxious. I won't get into the kitchen with 20 guests and be like, so what's a knife? So I think that's how I view sex education, and that bridge between single women and sex is there shouldn't even really be a chasm between it. You are still a sexual being as a single person. It's just the way you interact with the topic is going to be different than someone who is married or even dating or engaged. It's all very different, but you should still have contact with the subject at least before you get married.
Yeah.
That's a hill I will die on. Yeah.
You are doing the Lord's work. But yeah, thank you so much for this conversation, for just your openness and vulnerability. I will leave links to everything down below so they can follow along, follow SESI. If you're in Los Angeles, she's hosting an event in August.
Yes, it's 23rd. Here at Shiloh.
Any last words, parting words of advice?
Love is out there for you. And don't let your environment determine your belief of the outcome. Surround yourself with good people who encourage you and remind you of who you are, And don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling. No, but truly, men are just as human as you. They have maybe the same struggles that manifest differently, but we're all out here trying. That's all I'm going to say.
Mic drop. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.